Hi there. Here we are, Module 4 already. I can't believe it's the fourth week of school. But I wanted to just do a little review today of the fieldwork assignment. Just because you're going to look at your things that you get back, your grades, and you're going to say, what did I do wrong? I did what you asked me to. So now I want to tell you how you need to answer these, because there are 3 of them. In this particular instance, you had, of course, a field trip, and I know there's many reasons why a lot of you couldn't go, and I'm sorry for that. I would like to be able to plan them places and times that everybody could go in a 24-hour period of time. But you do have an alternative assignment. In some ways it's easier than the field trip, in some ways it's a lot harder. And some of you made it a lot harder. And I'm going to talk about that, because I may give you a chance to go back and revisit that one. Those who went on the field trip, it was easy. It was an hour's worth of time, and I enjoyed meeting you, and I hope you enjoyed what you see. The Houston Family Resource Center was developed for a reason, and the reason was that there was a need for something that was a psychosocial rehabilitation facility or process that people in the South County of Stanislaus would benefit from, because no transportation, no services, a high number of people suffering from depression. What to do? How do you handle that? The answer was that behavioral health and many of the other agencies, plus many of us from the community who were involved, were invited to take part in it, came to listen to a concept they had. It's kind of like when you teach reading and literacy programs. You use each one teach one, which is a method where I teach you, then you teach somebody else. And it's a kind of a group ongoing process. And that's what this was, that the communities would help themselves. That's kind of what psychosocial does. You walk in the door of the Houston Family Resource Center, and the first question they ask is, what can I do to help you? That's where it begins. It's, what can I help you do to be functional within your own community, within your own individual society, if you will. And they're very successful at what they do. High number of people with depression, huge numbers, because they're isolated. They're in little towns, hamlets, villages, some of them isolated in one town, LaGrange. They're out in the middle of nowhere, and you have to stand between 2 buildings to get cell phone service. So we're talking about some isolation here. So people who are just stuck in their homes without anything to do. So what happens? The community decided, well, we would like to have a Zumba program. So one of the churches said, okay, we'll host that. And it started with a few, and all of a sudden they have hundreds of people. And then those people, in talking to each other, say, gee, I'd like to learn to sew. So somebody started a sewing group. Somebody else started a computer training program. And there is that availability in the Houston Resource Center that they let the people use, and they teach themselves. Somebody knew how, somebody teaches. What happened is that the rate of depression, the number of people who've seen for those kinds of needs, are no longer there. They have friends, they have attachments, they have found ways to meet their needs and feel like they're worth something as human beings. So, I gave you information on a teenager who had all kinds of problems. I just gave you information. It's just all it was. The question is, if you are told that this person isn't there and that they're going to need some help or should get some help, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to say to them in person, on the telephone, wherever it starts, whether it's just because they come in the door or standing in the lobby, whatever, what can I do to help you? That's what you should have started your assignment by saying, because you cannot tell them what to do. You can only help them in what they think their needs are. Now, because you are a person who knows a lot about your community, because you are a person who knows people who work for probation or who work for some other agency. Could be HUD, it could be behavioral health, it could be anywhere, could be within the schools. Then you have resources that you can call, that you can contact after you have met with the person and said, how can I help you? I understand that you're homeless. What does that mean to you? Do you need a place to live? And they're going to say to you, no, I'm actually living on a friend's apartment. I'm living on their couch, and right now that's fine for me. Okay, but if you change your mind, let me know, and let's look at what's out there, and then you can see if there's something that you would like better. Because you want the person to be responsible for their decision making, and that's a technique you have to learn to acquire. Maybe they don't want to go to school. They hated it. They were in special ed classes. They didn't feel like they learned anything. People made fun of them. Whatever. So what is it that you want to do? You want to say to them, I see that you never got to finish school. Is that an interest of yours? And then they're going to talk about it. What does education mean to them? Not what does it mean to you. What does it mean to them? Are they capable of passing a GED? The most frustrating thing in the world to do with somebody who is developmentally delayed or someone who has no background academically is to tell them, well, take the GED. That's not so simple. But there are adult schools in every one of your communities where they teach GED. And there are literacy centers through the library or through other county agencies that can provide training in how to take the GED or studying adult basic education, which is GED material. So there are resources, but you are the person who knows. And instead of saying, here's a list, here's a telephone number, call them, see what they can do for you, that isn't what makes it here. It's your contact that's going to make it. So you'll say, why don't we call Salvation Army right now and see what their hours are? Because it looks like you need some new clothes. Would you like to do that? Would you like me to take you over there to look? Or I have so-and-so here who's a volunteer, and they would be glad to take you over and show you how to get started in finding some new things for yourself, and some food perhaps too, if that would help you. So instead of just sitting behind four walls and making lofty decisions and handing out phone numbers, we have to be motivated to give the service, to find ways for people to obtain the service. So it's just as simple as this. I had two people who didn't have a ride to come to the Houston Family Resource Center. Okay, I could say, well, that's just tough. Find your own way. That's your job. You're a college student. You know what? I'm going there anyhow. So I don't mind going to Modesto and picking them up and taking them. And I get to know the students better. So it works, all right? I don't need to just sit here surrounded by, as you can see, a cat right behind me and the soccer balls all over everywhere. So you know what? I can get up and move. And I can go get a student, for goodness sakes. They don't have a car. They can't afford the gas. Whatever the situation may be. That's the same thing we're talking about here. We are teaching people to function. And the best way to do that is to model the behavior. So, you could have answered it even with just one sentence. I would ask them, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What do you want? What are your needs? Let me help you. Thanks, and I'll talk to you soon.